I think it's fair to say that the Star Wars sequel trilogy disappointed fans for several reasons. Not only the fact that the original core three characters of Han, Luke and Leia weren't actually reunited on screen at the same time, but Han and Leia had separated, and Luke had become a world-weary, cynical hermit, living alone on an island, having lost his faith in the Force and the Jedi. And then, of course, there was the inclusion of the usual feminist agenda pushing, a Mary Sue primary character in the form of Rey, and then there was the frequent emasculation of prominent male characters.
I've dealt with plenty of trigger-happy flyboys like you. You're impulsive, dangerous.
Leia.
The trilogy concluded with The Rise of Skywalker, which I think tried its best to not make some of the same mistakes of its predecessor, The Last Jedi. But in so doing, it kind of ended up taking a very paint-by-numbers approach. It was very conservative in its storytelling, and as a result of that, it came off as being very predictable and unimaginative, resurrecting Emperor Palpatine being the best example of this. The film played like an attempted greatest hits of the franchise, but it failed to recreate the magic of the originals, and making Rey the ultimate Jedi, encapsulating the powers and legacy of all the previous Jedis, it just further cemented the cringy Mary Sue element of the story. With the popularity and fan acclaim of the likes of The Mandalorian and Andor recently, it was beginning to look like Star Wars was starting to turn a corner. So that's why I find myself asking the question, why? Just why are they bringing Rey back in her own movie? No disrespect to Daisy Ridley, but Rey Palpatine / Skywalker or whatever, she's a character that most fans were probably not all that keen on seeing again. Rey just felt like a rather one-dimensional character to me. She wasn't especially engaging or interesting. I never felt she was strong enough as a lead character on her own. This article is from Bounding Into Comics. Lucasfilm announces new Star Wars film focused on Daisy Ridley's Rey appears she will continue to completely supplant Luke Skywalker's story. That's what the sequel trilogy really did. It retold and upstaged Luke with this female character who could do pretty much everything that he could do with a lightsaber, but without the need to, learn. She was just great at everything with minimal effort. Fixing spaceships, flying the Millennium Falcon, fighting with a lightsaber, using the Force. It all came to Rey far quicker than it ever did to Luke Skywalker. She never really had any personal growth to make because she was written to be almost perfect from the start. She even appeared to have more knowledge of the Millennium Falcon systems than Han Solo.
What'd you do?
I bypassed the compressor.
This new film will be directed by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, and according to an official blog, it will feature Daisy Ridley back as Rey as she builds a new Jedi Order. A press release stated, Kennedy then revealed that Star Wars will head into the future with a new feature set 15 years after the last events of the Skywalker saga. Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy will tell the story of rebuilding the new Jedi Order and the powers that rise to tear it down. The director then delighted fans by welcoming Daisy Ridley to stage, confirming she will be reprising her beloved role as Rey in the upcoming movie. Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy spoke with IGN following the film's announcement and provided some more details on how the film came about. Kennedy detailed, "We're 15 years out from Rise of Skywalker, so we're kind of post-war, post-First Order, and the Jedi are in disarray." Why are the Jedi in disarray again? And there's a lot of discussion around who are the Jedi? What are they doing? What's the state of the galaxy? And she's attempting to rebuild the Jedi Order based on the books, based on what she promised Luke, Kennedy concluded. So that's where we're going. Why do we need to see this? Firstly, this kind of story was basically inferred at the end of The Return of the Jedi. The good guys had won. It was a happy ending. Audiences suspected that all was right with the galaxy again and that the Jedi were on the rise and a bright future lay ahead for them. Then the sequel trilogy basically had to undo all of that and effectively tell the same story all over again, bringing us to more or less the same conclusion. The end of The Rise of Skywalker, just like the end of The Return of the Jedi, is left open to the audience to imagine what happens next. So there's no need to show it. In both trilogies, the characters went on their respective journeys. They learned their lessons, the bad guys were defeated, and the heroes triumphed. It's not necessary to show what happens afterwards. Kennedy was then asked by IGN's Alex Steadman, "You mentioned Luke, and I think he almost seemed like almost a cautionary tale in the most recent trilogy. Will we see any of that play with Rey at all?" Kennedy responded, "I don't know if we'll spend a lot of time in flashbacks or Force ghosts or things like that, but certainly the spirit of what he represents to her is going to be significant." Later in the interview, Kennedy claimed the film has been in the works for multiple years, she said. "As far as Charmine, we've been working on that for a couple of years already." It sounds to me like it's yet another sci-fi spin-off sequel project that the fans never asked for. It's like these studios are uninterested in fan sentiment and just making these productions for a tiny subsection of the fan base, because such a story is the last thing that most Star Wars fans wanted to see. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.